Kansas City is having a a very popular time in the media right now, thanks to Taylor Swift for some reason and Beyonce. So hello, Kansas City. Crosswinds Youth Services in Cocoa, Florida. Nice to meet you. Good, Oregon. Hello. I'll be there soon. We'll be there in November, or actually, I guess it's end of November, beginning of December. We'll be in Seattle. I don't know how close that is to Eugene. Hello, everyone just joining. We will get started in just about 1 minute. If you're just joining the chat, if you could drop any organization that you're with, or if you're just representing yourself this year for NRPM and the city and state you're calling in from today. Oh, well. All right, Beth, you ready to get things underway? All right, we will continue to let people in as they come, but I am ready to get started. This always ends up being my favorite partner call because it's the one that I personally know about the least, and it's always a great opportunity to learn from my co-host today, or actually the host of today's call, who is Beth Richmond, not Richmond, because I made that mistake yesterday, even though we've been working together for years. Today, we are going to talk about securing media coverage and local support, which is one of the coolest ways to be involved. And shockingly, it takes way less effort than you would think. It definitely still takes a little bit of work on your part, but I think a lot of people are really nervous about reaching out to local media or to their, even national media about covering the things that they're doing for National Runaway Prevention Month. So I mentioned it a little bit before, but I'll say it again. Today's presentation is designed to be just a little bit shorter because we wanted to make sure to leave lots of space at the end for any question that you have. So don't be shy. If we don't answer your questions throughout the presentation, please make sure to save them from the end. You can take yourself off of mute and drop them in the chat, whichever works for you best. But there will be a time at the end for presentations. So let's get started. I can make this PowerPoint move. Everyone can see my screen, correct? Perfect. So my name is Christopher Smith. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications for the National Runaway Safe Line. If we haven't already met, it's very nice to meet you. I also produce our podcast, which is called Let's Talk, and I am excited to be here with you all this week. And I am also excited to do our final partner call in 2 weeks from now and talk about social media. It's going to be a huge partner call where we really break it down. So if you have any questions about social media, that'll be a great call to join. Beth, do you want to give yourself a quick introduction?
Sure. I am Beth Richmond, and I work with the communications engagement team here at the National Runaway Safe Line. I work as a communication consultant, so I'm not part of staff, but I've been working with this organization for over 5 years, work on National Runaway Prevention Month, all different kinds of communications, awareness programs, handle PR, really, lots of things that fall under communications.
Mm-hmm. I feel like you could list things for an hour and it probably still wouldn't even cover all of the things that you do. Like you are so beyond just like not being on staff. Beth is really integral in our messaging and branding and making sure that everything is as buttoned up and well presented as it is. So Beth is, in my opinion, probably one of the most useful people to have around, especially when doing things related to PR and communications.
So wow, that's pressure. I gotta live up to that.
It's not pressure. I'm just, basing it off of history and the things that you've already done. So Today, like I mentioned, we're talking about securing media coverage and local support. So when we talk about media coverage, we're talking about things like your local news stations, radio stations, different magazines, or that could, if magazines are still being printed in your area, but this also to consider like online blogs or Instagram, or I'm sorry, social media channels that do like different type of releases and things like that, and talking about the best way to engage them in order to get additional support for your organization. We have lots of different tools and resources that we'll talk about throughout today that are really, really helpful, that best put together to make this as simple as possible for you. So we'll also show you some examples of media coverage that other partners have gained over the past years, which may be helpful in helping establish the types of things that like media may be looking to cover. So you may ask questions like, how do you get your organization featured in the media? What type of partnerships are helpful when it comes to relationships with reporters? I mean, we'll really address hopefully everything, any type of question that you have. And of course, like I mentioned again, at the very end, we will have space for you to just ask questions. So please don't be shy, speak up. You may be helping someone without even knowing it just by asking your question. So today's objective is to learn how to secure earned media coverage. That's my favorite term, earned media coverage. We say earned media coverage because this is media coverage that's coming to you with all of the hard work you're doing, essentially. It's not just someone happening upon this. You're working to get this coverage. And you'll also learn how to amplify the message of NRPM and all of our goals with NRM through public relations efforts across different communications channels. Uh-oh, that went away on my screen. Can everyone still see my screen?
Okay. No.
How about now?
Now I see it. There we go.
All right. So Beth, it went way ahead. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Passing it over to you, Beth.
All right. Yeah. So, you wonder how do these organizations generate publicity? As Christopher said, it's not as intimidating as you may be concerned that it is. It does take some work. It's a combination of relationships and luck and strategy and skills, the right timing. But we're here to help you. And if beyond today you need assistance as you're working on your local campaign, our team is, of course, here to help with any kind of PR needs. But we're confident you can do it. We've seen lots of partners pull off very successful media outreach efforts. And I think it's because they understand really what's required. And here's a sort of concise list. So you got to make sure that you're pitching news. Media are bombarded every day with pitches, and some of those are irrelevant, some of them may be boring, some of them may not even align with a reporter's beat, they may not be timely for whatever reason. They're bombarded, but you got to make yours stand out from all of those that don't really align with the reporter's interests. So make sure you're pitching news. You can add statistics, you can allude to an event. Obviously, National Runaway Prevention Month is newsworthy. So make sure you're pitching news, nothing promotional. Just keep it pretty solid and tight and newsworthy. Obviously, make it timely. And of course, NRPM provides that timely hook. If you don't have that hook, a reporter can file away your pitch. Consider it at a future time or even delete it. So having a timely hook says, cover this now. And National Runaway Prevention Month obviously does that. If you have an event or some sort of scheduled activity, that of course also makes it timely and reinforces the importance of covering it now. Do your research. This takes a little bit of work, but go online and Google the media outlets in your area. Google who's covered youth homelessness or awareness campaigns or whatever sort of issues you're really focusing on with this pitch. Once you discover those outlets, do a little research into the kinds of coverage. What sort of angles are they focusing on in terms of youth homelessness? Read those stories and get a better understanding of sort of the way they position their publicity, their coverage. once you've read those stories, you can also use that to personalize your pitches when you do your outreach. A reporter always appreciates when, excuse me, when you've demonstrated that you've read their work, that you know what they write about. Once you've done your research, you'll be able to create a media list. You want to, excuse me, as Christopher said, you want to include print and online, TV, radio, blogs, all the outlets that cover your geographic area. So compile that list, make sure you get the right people, you've got all their contact information, and it's in one document, and it can serve as sort of your guide to your outreach. You'll track your notes, any kind of communications you have. But that media list is key. You'll probably add to it and revise it as you go through the media relations process. Now you've got your list, so create the materials. And we do provide you with a couple of template materials. Those are on the NRPM homepage. There's a press release and there is a media alert template. So determine if those are right for you and tailor them to your particular announcement or your news. You might want to create a pitch letter and maybe even just send a pitch letter. You know, again, as I said, reporters are bombarded with these pitches every day. So keep your communication concise. Definitely explain what the issue is, why it matters to their audience, why it fits into their publication. So you've got a pitch letter, you've got maybe a press release, a media alert for an event. You might want bios for spokespeople, or you might want a fact sheet that really highlights the issues that your organization deals with or showcases the range of programs that you guys offer. And then once you've got your materials, you are ready to reach out to reporters. So distribute your emails. And I strongly advise doing this in a very tailored and strategic way. Don't blast it out. Reporters know when you've done that, and they're likely to just pass it over or file it. So tailor your pitch, and don't be surprised if you don't hear back right away. You know, that's common. Give it a few days and follow up. You know, something very subtle, something very short. You can follow up with new information. I always like to try and give them a little bit of like a new nugget related to the pitch, whether it's a new panelist that's been added to your event or new participants that have agreed to sign on to your effort. But something that they didn't have in the previous email that sort of gives you a reason to be following up. I don't recommend starting your email, you know, I'm following up on the pitch that I had sent. They'll kind of gloss over that. You want to always use your communication wisely. So follow up, don't follow up too often, and be helpful. I think that that's really critical. Reporters are very busy, like all of us, and very much appreciate when you're responsive, when you deliver on what you say you're going to do, when you connect them to resources, when you arrange interviews, when you provide assets, whether it's photos or graphics, but make their job a little bit easier. And then once you do get a story that runs, be sure to say thank you. That goes a long way. I mean, a big part of media relations is building relationships. And when you demonstrate that you're appreciative that they've covered your story, your news, that's important. So say thank you, and they very much appreciate when you share that story. So put it in your newsletter. Last year, the Bill Wilson Center had done a walk and rally, and they put that story on. They got TV coverage and they got a newspaper story, and they put it on their social media and they included the story in their newsletter. So reporters certainly appreciate when you sort of extend the reach and tag them, tag the outlet. It goes a long way. And then here are a couple examples of some of the coverage that NRPM partners secured last year. You know, here's an organization out in California, say, that had secured several monuments and buildings to be lit green. And they use that as sort of their news peg. And of course, in combination with NRPM, they got a really nice story with really great visuals. Like I said, Bill Wilson, you can see down at the bottom, they shared this on their social media page. And then some of the others, the YMCA out in San Diego, they had staff members who were riding across the state. I think it was over 100 miles on their bike, and they got some really nice publicity. And again, they shared that on social and offered photos. So again, it's not too difficult of a process, but you definitely have to do your homework and do a little work and be responsive. But in the end, it can certainly generate some stories that will help raise awareness and really drive support.
I want to emphasize what you said, Beth, earlier about like keeping, especially when you're checking back in with a publication or a writer or whoever who hasn't necessarily been super responsive. A lot of you have already said that you're doing a lot of work, like getting monuments lit up in green, requesting proclamations. When things like that are happening and you're reaching back out, that's a great opportunity to be like, hey, since the last time I reached out, you know, the mayor has issued a proclamation for this month of November or whatever, or like we've had 50 additional people register or commit to come to this event, and we'd love like for you guys to come, blah 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 blah. So don't forget to like kind of toot your own horn, talk about all of the great work that you're doing, especially in the community, to like let them know that this is an event that people in your local area are interested in and care about. I'm gonna move to our next slide.
One other thing that I failed to mention, when you're creating your media list, I talked about researching all types of media outlets, whether it's radio or it's newspapers. Also identify opportunities where you can submit content. There are reader submitted opportunities with websites, with newspapers. Those might be letters to the editor or just guest essays. That's a good way to get sort of your controlled content out there. You know, you draft it and it's reprinted with, you know, as you've written it. So it hasn't been amended, and those outlets are always looking for their reader's perspective.
Mm-hmm. Also, I'll add one thing. Also, I say this every year. So a lot of radio stations around the country give out free ad space to nonprofits specifically. It just depends on usually the size of the radio station. So like, I know iHeartRadio has like a community outreach program where you can submit to have a free radio schedule through them. Other stations in your local area may have like a nomination process where someone can nominate a nonprofit, and then you can get like a free radio schedule through them. There's lots of different opportunities. I recommend like just searching on Google like free radio advertisement for nonprofits, and then adding like your zip code maybe or your city and state. You'd be surprised at how many opportunities there have been put out for nonprofits specifically to like spread good news in their community. So that's just another tip and thing to look out for. If you do that this year, also, I would love to hear about that as you're submitting or as you're getting this type of coverage approved and they're letting you know that it's going to be posted, or when they share it out, share it with us also. We also would like to help bring awareness to the work you're doing in your community. So it could be featured in our newsletter, it may be featured on our blog. There's lots of different opportunities for us to also share out the information with our hundreds of partners that are signed up to participate in National Runaway Prevention Month. So we also offer quite a few different templates for National Runaway Prevention Month, and I'm going to show those to you, like where they live on the website and things like that. Before I do that, Beth, did you have anything you wanted to talk about with the templates? Okay, perfect.
No, I think, I mean, just keep in mind they are templates, and they should certainly be tailored to whatever announcement you're making. The press release is very focused on an event, but you can tweak that. But again, just keep it concise. I personally try and keep press releases well under 500 words. Reporters don't have time to read lengthy releases, so just keep it tight. And a media alert is something you'd use to promote an event. to try and get on-site coverage. So you send it out a day, 2 days in advance, and maybe even the morning of.
I'm going to switch screens here just to show you on our website exactly what it looks like to go through the process of getting these templates. So here you can see this is the homepage for the National Runaway Prevention Month. The URL is a little bit longer here, but you can actually just go directly to 1-800-runaway.org/NRPM and it'll automatically redirect you to this page. So if you scroll down the page, you'll see there are lots of things that have been added, like there's a short NRPM video. And as you get to the bottom, you'll actually find the resources. And bonus tip, at the very top, you can actually just click resources here and it should take you down to that section of the page. So you'll see immediately at the top, we have the toolkits here, but the first set of buttons here are actually the different templates or opportunities related to those that you can download. So the lighting request template, for example, these are all in Word document format because the goal is for you to just be able to easily fill in the information that's there. Right now, the way it's set up, but when you click these, it's going to automatically download that document. I'm working on a way so that it'll maybe pop up in your browser and you don't have to download it. It'll just make it a little bit easier, but I can't guarantee that I'll be able to do that. So if I am able to do that, I'll definitely make sure to send out a message. When you download that, it should cause this to pop up. And as you see, everything is already highlighted. Like Beth mentioned, there's still you still want to do your due diligence, make sure to read through that. If there are other parts you can change to make it more timely or more relevant to what you're doing, then great. But here you just really want to replace the date, the building, contact, the person who you're actually reaching out to. Make sure you put information about your organization and then the actual monument that you're wanting to get lit in green. This is pretty much how all of these templates look. If you click and download them, then all of that information will pop up for you here. Here's the media relations one, and it's the same. I went through and highlighted all of the things that you should go in and change. And again, if there are additional things that it makes sense to change for your event specifically, then I highly recommend doing so. I'm going to go back to our presentation here. And then talking about going back to what Beth was mentioning is being super gracious after your coverage is secured. I would, before you even share it out on social media, share your excitement with them. Let them know that you're super thankful that they took the time to provide the coverage and everything. But you also want to make sure to share it out. So it's super important to share these on all of your social media channels, or as many as you can. Your newsletters, you can post them on your website, and make sure to tag the outlets and the journalists. If they make their social media accounts available, like their personal accounts, then make sure to tag them, because there's a good chance that they'll also reshare that out again. When you're including it in your newsletter, make sure that the links are clickable and that you're providing a very obvious link in there for people to be able to click. We often will make the text within a paragraph clickable, a clickable link, and still add a button for people to be able to see that you can go to that website from there. It sounds silly, but you would be surprised how many times we'll send out messages and people are I don't know where to download that. It's just an extra way to make sure that everyone understands that they can click it. And again, using different ways on your social media channels. If you have a social media channel where you're regularly making videos, use that same method to share out the information. Make a video talking about the article and the coverage instead of just posting a link. Whatever is going to resonate with your audience more, however they're used to being contacted by you, is the best way to reach them. So if you have supporters that are used to getting this information in your newsletter, make sure to include it there. If you have supporters that are used to seeing it on social media, make sure it's posted there. And don't be afraid to repost things multiple times. I think a lot of us, because social media is its own full-time job, will often just post things once and then kind of let it live on the page. Maybe you'll pin it to the top of your profile, but don't be afraid to share it multiple times. Maybe the first time you share it, it's a screenshot of the article. Maybe the second time you share it, it's a specific section of the article that you really want to resonate with people, or that you really want people to live with. Maybe if it gets shared by multiple outlets, you can share a link to a different outlet. There's so many different ways that you can make sure that the coverage is continually getting boosted on your social media pages or wherever you're posting it. So,
Oh, and actually, Christopher, go back one point. That final bullet is included because this is kind of important. When you're offering a spokesperson to a reporter, that reporter may want to know how your spokesperson does in media interviews. So we suggest that you include a link in your pitch letter to past coverage, which will demonstrate your spokesperson's style and skills and just ability to conduct media interviews. So it also adds some credibility, demonstrates that you have been covered by the media. So, you know, these pitch letters are another place to leverage some of this coverage that you've secured, but also really shows that your spokespeople are capable and experienced.
mhm. All right. So as we finish the presentation, does anyone have any questions that we can try to answer from you off the top? Anything that's come to mind since we started the presentation? Feel free to drop questions in the chat, or you can take yourself off of mute and just go ahead and ask away.
No questions. Hmm.
I'll share one question that I've been getting quite a bit in the email is like is if we have any additional things that we can provide that offer details about National Runaway Prevention Month or about the services that we offer. And of course, we are, if you like want, we of course provide the toolkits which have tons of information from about National Runaway Prevention Month, about National Runaway Safe Line. I believe it has a letter from our CEO in it, which has lots of great information. We also have a youth toolkit that has a letter from our youth advisory board. So we're offering a couple of different angles, different perspectives to have talking points there. We also have lots of free outreach and promotional materials that has details about some of the specific programs that we offer. And we're also happy to help you kind of put some information together about your own like services and programs if you need like help getting all of that together to send to someone. Any questions, or should I assume that everyone is going to kill it this year and get tons and tons of media coverage, become media masters, and win NRPM awards?
Yeah, we've seen some organizations do an incredible job. I mean, they really garner publicity from all kinds of outlets. They get newspaper coverage, they've got stories online, they've got TV cameras that are coming out to their events. You know, it's fantastic when you guys pursue this kind of publicity because it really does raise awareness, adds credibility. Important to do.
Something that we also don't talk about a ton is like how social media has become kind of its own news source for better or for worse. But if you have like local celebrities or local personalities in your area that are popular on social media, it's another opportunity to engage with them, to get them to do their own kind of coverage on their social media channels. Again, if you have, there's lots of cool accounts. I think maybe an example is like on Instagram, there's an account called so.informed. And all they do is share information, but that's still just one person or a small group of people who pick and choose what news they want to share and share that out. If you know of like groups that do that in your community, that's an excellent opportunity to reach a really huge audience without as much effort as it would take to reach out to like a local news outlet or TV station or anything like that. So just something extra consider is don't neglect the power of social media. A lot of those, it's a great opportunity to build relationships with people who may want to work with you again in the future, just like a local TV presenter or a publication. All right, last opportunity to ask any questions. Of course, my email will be open after this, but again, if you ask your questions here, you may be helping someone out who doesn't necessarily want to speak up and ask their question. Has anyone on the call already earned any media coverage this year, or have they done any in the past?
it may be a little early to be pitching NRPM now. I'd suggest, depending upon when you're hosting an event or what it is you're really pushing out there, what you're announcing, probably to start pitching as we get closer to November.
All right. I'm gonna leave our information up here for just a couple of minutes so you can all take that down. If anything comes up, if that question pops in your head at 2 o'clock in the morning, send us an email. We're not gonna respond until a reasonable time during the day, but don't hesitate to reach out to us anytime. We will try to get back to you as soon as possible with any information that we have so that we can help make sure that your campaign is successful, make sure that these news outlets are paying attention to you, hopefully. If we can help in any way with that, we definitely will. All right. Any last words, Beth?
No, I think that's it. But like you said, we're here to help you.
All right, guys. Thank you so much all for joining us. Don't hesitate to reach out to us if you need anything.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.